I was really experiencing deep anxiety, chronic hives. I was even told that I was in early menopause at 28. So I couldn't understand. Like I did everything I was told to do. I followed the path. I followed the prescription they gave me.
Yes.
How is this happening to me now? And how am I so deeply disconnected to myself?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my first awakening.
Hey there, welcome to another episode with me, Karishma. We're in Voice It with Karishma Shah, and today we have a very special guest with us. Like usual, we bring so many different people from so many different backgrounds to be able to come here and share their stories, share the kind of beautiful work that they're doing with everyone. So today we have Felicia Dhanani. She's from Florida. She's a conscious connection coach. Already so excited to know so many things about Felicia now. But welcome Felicia to the show today. And I'm so happy that you took out time and you're having this conversation with us today. And it's lovely to have you here. And I'm so excited about the deep conversations that we're going to be having very soon.
Thank you. Thank you to share this space with you and yeah, really just do a deep dive
Absolutely.
on some really
So
important
Felicia,
things.
you know, when we were having a conversation earlier, you told me that you do this powerful work, which is known as conscious connection with people, right? So, you know, can you tell us something about your personal journey, how you got to doing this, and, you know, how do you help people connect to their self or their true self?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I believe our primary purpose is to know ourselves deeply. And this is really our birthright. You know, we all think about what is my purpose? This is our purpose. And so for me, my journey started in my late 20s, I would say, and it wasn't until recently that I started to really wake up and truly understand. So I'm 40, almost, I'll be 42. So from my late 20s to now, it's been a continuous process for me and tough lessons that I've had to learn. And it's definitely had to break me open almost. Like I've I've disappointed loved ones. I have unearthed a lot of things and made a lot of waves in my life. But this has been, for me, a small price to pay for knowing myself, for feeling truly liberated and having freedom. So, to tell you a little story, so for me, as a child, I was very emotional, right? Like I cried a lot, and my parents didn't quite understand why I was crying. And you know, as children, we can't articulate ourselves, but as most parents, right? They flee from pain, so they would do anything they could to get me to be quiet, right? Like, please stop crying, whatever it takes. And I think they did and tried all of it.
Yes.
So with that understanding, you know, this concept of we need to move away from discomfort, I then started to learn as a child that, okay, if I didn't cry and I suppressed my feelings, then my parents would accept me more. They wouldn't push me away. And even on top of that, if I then did what they asked me to do, they then would love me more.
Yeah.
So with this understanding, this then becomes kind of a way of being as a child, right? And I suppressed those emotional outbursts that would come. And I would say, no, if I could do that, they're going to accept me and they're going to love me. And as I got older, then I was really a person that was able to think their way through life, but I really didn't feel my way through life. And so I didn't really have deep emotional connections with people. I was really able to keep myself kind of comfortably numb, people felt like they were connected to me, but I could keep them at arm's length. And this kind of became a fine art for me. And I found success in it. It worked. However, in keeping all the pain out, I also kept the joy and the deep connections. And so what I started to learn is that not only was I not connecting deeply with others, I also was very disconnected from myself.
Yes.
And this became clear to me, and I started to realize that I created this adaptive behavior as a child that worked for me as a child, right? It kept me safe. It kept me connected to my family. Now it was now maladaptive for me, right? It was now working against me in my adulthood. And coupled with, you also learn other behaviors. So for me, I also learned how to be a people pleaser and how to be the martyr and do for other people, and their needs became more important than my needs. And I saw that the more I did this, that I would get this validation from other people, from the outside world. They told me how amazing I was. And then so you just keep doing it because it works.
Yes.
But it wasn't until it must have been in my I started to see this more in my 20s, in my late 20s. And I remember going to a doctor because on the outside, I was physically fit. I was probably the most fit I've been. My career, I was at the top of my career. I was doing things and achieving things, all everybody really strives for. I followed the path, but I started to see my body physically begin to break down.
Yeah.
So I had gone to the doctor, and I was really experiencing deep anxiety, chronic hives. I was even told that I was in early menopause at 28. So I couldn't understand. Like I did everything I was told to do. I followed the path. I followed the prescription they gave me.
Yes.
How is this happening to me now? And how am I so deeply disconnected to myself?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my first awakening. My second one was more recently, in several years ago, where as a Indian woman, I had to make the phone call and call my parents and tell them that my marriage was over. And all of the shame and unworthiness and also confusion.
Yes.
Of I did what I was told, and I was the good girl, and all of that. Why didn't it work out the way I was told it was supposed to? But
Yes.
all of that came weighing back to me.
Yes.
So this now became sort of a second. And how am I've achieved, I've done, but I don't feel connected to myself. Everything that I told I was going to get, it didn't come. I followed the good girl to the T. And this was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I had to now start to take true responsibility for my life. Yeah. And understand. So now look, our parents do the best that they can. They only work from the knowledge that they have and the level of consciousness and what was given to them, right? They're not doing this out of some malicious behavior, but really there has to be a point where we look and we say, we take responsibility for our own life and the lessons that have come before us. So this was really when I had to acknowledge that my own, like, I had to dismantle this belief system. And I had to look that my people pleasing nature, and that was really a mask of my unworthiness. And I was deeply looking for the self-love in me to feel truly connected, not just to the outside world, but feel truly connected to myself.
Yes.
So this was really where this big awakening began to come in. And I had to really look in the mirror at my participation, my own participation in this dysfunctional life that was happening in front of me at the moment. And I had to take full responsibility and say that what I am looking for, I cannot find in a partner, and I cannot find in my child, I cannot find in my parents, that I really now had to go inside, and I had to do the deep dive and start to really uncover what I had spent the past 40 years covering up and hiding, which essentially was my true essence. And I allowed myself to be severed from it. So this was the journey. This was the point where I started to do the work and to understand that I had to stop subscribing to some of these belief systems that were handed down to me, right? Again, not because they were out of malicious behavior, but we are not just from our family, but we're completely indoctrinated with belief systems that come from culture and institutions and everything around us that tell us how we should feel about ourselves, right? They tell us that you should feel this way. And that's, you know, the institution of education, family, marriage, beauty, health, wellness, you name it, right? And they set the standards for how we should feel. And when we look at that, it keeps us from deep connection, because we don't ask ourselves, how do I feel about me? We always look to the outside. You tell me how I look. Am I beautiful? You tell me how smart I am. Did I get the degree? You tell me if I'm a good mother because I did this, or I'm a good wife or a good partner, a good daughter. So I started to dismantle and unravel all of this and say, okay, now what? Who am I under all of this? And so with my own awakening, I have now started working with other women in this process. And interestingly enough, I would say, you know, my true awakening has happened within the past 4 or 5 years, but 12 years before that, I had been doing the work. I had been studying yoga and yoga therapy and breath work and really doing the work from the physical body perspective, which was helpful, but there's so many layers to it. And so really that also coupled with the idea that this is a process and we're not ready to do it until we're ready to do it.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And so, you know, we understanding, I think, really from a higher level perspective of, you know, we come into this world, yes, our families, they play a part, without blame, that we create these adaptive behaviors and almost a shell to protect ourselves from our inner child, right? Our inner child is screaming to be heard and to be loved and be seen, but our parents and culture is saying, be a good girl, do what you're told, don't talk too much, you know, don't cry, don't show emotion. And this goes for both girls and boys.
Yes.
And so with that, we get so severed. And now kind of that rebirth into ourselves and the understanding that ego, you know, it shows up in our daily life, right? Everybody thinks I didn't have trauma, or my childhood was great. It wasn't that bad. Yeah. But we've all had small pieces of this that absolutely show up in our daily lives. And we've created these maladaptive personalities and behaviors that affect our relationships with others, with ourselves, with our children on a direct
Yes.
basis.
Yes. Thank you, Felicia. That was beautiful. I mean, to be able to kind of, put out your entire journey in such a short time and, truly open up on a platform. I think kudos to that. Thank you so much you've been through, and, you did that with so much flair right now. Things which I feel are so commendable. Firstly, I'm a very strong believer of the fact that you have to be able to go through certain things in life. You mentioned this beautiful thing where you had to break open, right? So I feel like there are moments in each individual's life where you will be forced to break open, right? And that's where the journey begins from. So many people get scared when that breakthrough happens, or when that event happens, and they're like, oh, now what am I supposed to do with my life? But the thing is, that's the lesson that you have to pick up, inculcate within your daily routine, and then move on so that you can actually gain from whatever it is that has come through you. And I think that when you spoke about your entire journey, I felt like that was one of the things that you also did, and I feel like it's something that everyone should adopt. And the second thing is that I felt like for you to be able to help someone, for you to be able to understand, I always say this, and I don't know if you agree with it, but I feel like sympathizing with someone and empathizing with someone are two different things. They're not the
Yeah.
same. A lot of people would sympathize with you when they listen to your when they listen to your story, or they kind of see you or talk to you, right? But empathizing with you and actually leading you towards the light, or guiding you in the right way possible, are things which not everyone can do. So
Right.
I feel like that empathy can only rise from a place of true wisdom. And
Right.
wisdom only comes when we've done the work ourselves. I was listening to you talk, and I was just thinking that to be able to understand certain things, to be able to sit with yourself. You mentioned so many times that you actually evaluated so many things when you were a child, and looking back at all those behaviors, reworking those things, unlearning those things, it takes so much time, effort, conscious effort to be able to do these things. And an individual who actually succeeds to do this then actually starts becoming wiser with years. And I think with your journey, I think you've reached that stage, and more power to you, and all the things that you're going to be uncovering ahead as well, all the people's lives that you touch as well. But I feel like I loved the way that you kind of explained the entire journey, and I loved the whole self-connection journey that you just told us about. So thank you for that, Felicia.
No, it's interesting because again, we learn from a young age by our parents' blueprints that we need to retreat from pain. Pain is bad. Don't go towards the pain, go away from the pain. But here's the thing. Nobody learns out of joy. We learn from the pain. The pain is where we wake up. It's when we can sit in the hardship, because pain is inevitable. We have all felt it. We will all go through more of it. That is life. But if we can look at it and say, pain and the suffering is our window into our souls.
Yes.
Pain is where we can step into and begin to break open, right? We only break when we crack. We must crack first. And cracking hurts.
Yes.
It hurts.
Yes.
So if we can change our perception about pain, number one, don't feel shame because going through it. Everybody goes through it. Everybody's had trauma. That is our universal connection, is that we've all felt pain. And once we can see that and understand that and go, now, not only do I need to learn to sit with pain, but we also need to teach our children and the next generations that we can't numb pain, right? We numb with everything, with overworking, over shopping, overeating, over everything, over drinking, everything, over. We
Yes.
numb. And in numbing, we literally prolong our awakening and our liberation. And here's the thing, the universe is going to make us have more pain until we learn it. So if we sit with the pain and we just go, what is it you are trying to teach me? Let me open this door. Let me see the lesson here. That's how we can grow.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Also, Felicia, you know, when you mentioned um, few of the things that you've had to do to be able to kind of crack open, I did understand that you did end up setting certain boundaries, right? So if you can help us with understanding how a person can learn to set boundaries with one's emotions, and what are the kind of changes that flow into an individual's life, and you as a coach, right, or you as a conscious coach, how is it that you kind of like help them with these kinds of experiences? If you could kind of just help us with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So boundaries are a really big thing, especially for women, right? We tend to have poor boundaries.
Yes.
Now, first, it's important to understand why, right? It's not like we're just crappy at, you know, creating boundaries. No, understanding the why and having the awareness gives us a deeper ability to do and
Yes.
to make changes. So, poor boundaries, once we understand that it's stemming from our inner child, so childhood stuff, we did not feel seen or heard or validated, right? And we learned that if we were subservient and we were people pleasers and we did more for others, so if we put others' needs ahead of ourselves, we were commended for it. We were called amazing. We were loved more, right? So with that understanding, our inner child feeling unseen, unheard, um, not part of the tribe or the family, we've now created this behavior, right? As a child. Now, as a child, it worked. As we got older, it shows up in having poor boundaries. It
Yes.
shows up as being a perfectionist. It shows up as procrastination. So that when we think, oh, I don't have those behaviors, yes, we do. And they show up differently. This is how they show up. So core boundaries, it's literally a war between our goodness and who we really are. So this is the hard thing because we all want to be good. We've all been told good is good, right? And we subscribe to that. Yes. So it becomes difficult because we've been conditioned to wear this mask, and for our own sake and to show our truth, we must take the mask off. And it's the truth that culture has shown us, religion has shown us, our families tell us this is what's good.
Yeah.
So this is the battle when it comes with boundaries. And that's why boundaries are so hard, because it's literally pitting us up against some of the things that are so important to us, right? Culture, religion, our families, so this is the constriction. This is why it feels so to set a boundary and to say no. And we just say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then we suffer in silence and we have resentment. So when we can understand that this is deeply rooted. This is not, you're just a pushover. No, this has really been instilled in us, ingrained in us, and it's part of our fibers. And when we do this, this is it also it's a seed that we have so much fear of rejection, of unworthiness. We have fear of showing up as our true selves. So with that seed, that's where it's rooted. We can understand and almost have empathy for ourselves when we can't set a healthy boundary, right? Don't beat yourself up because it's so deeply seated.
Yes.
So when we can understand the context, now we can take a deep breath and work through some of the exercises. But boundaries are very hard, especially in deep cultural like cultural context, because they indoctrinate us even heavier, right? They do it in the name of a lot of other institutions, which make it harder, right? So now we feel like we're going against everything. So when we do this, and let's say we are trying to set a healthy boundary with a family member, for example, and they're asking us to do things, and we don't want to do it, but we feel very conditioned and obligated, right? Sit with it and say, what is it that's coming up for me? Why do I feel like I need to do this? If I don't do this, right? So let's say we come from a culture that we have to cook dinner every day. Okay, we must prepare a healthy, full on meal spread every day. And if we don't, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So sit with that. What does it mean if I don't? It means I'm not a good wife, or I'm not a good daughter, or I'm not a good mother. I don't know how. I don't respect my family. I don't want them to eat well. This is what we tell ourselves, right? This is the recording. I wouldn't be worthy of this person. I wouldn't be worthy of this role. So we have to tell ourselves, what would it mean if I didn't do it?
Yeah.
We sit with that, process that, and then say, okay, if I didn't do it, 100%, somebody is going to have their feelings hurt. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, what would that mean to me if our spouse or our mother or our mother-in-law would say, how could you not cook dinner today?
Yeah.
How would that make you feel? And you kind of feel bad, but does it change who you are? Does it change your essence? When we start to recognize that I am not my deeds, really at the end of the day, if we ate leftovers twice a week, would it be harmful? Would it allow me to spend time on doing other things? So we have to rationalize it and understand it before we throw the gauntlet down and throw the boundary down. Because if we just throw it down, it's going to come out of anger and resentment, and you're really going to piss someone off. And that's not really what we want to do, right? We want to preserve the connection. And the way to do that is understand. Let's understand where it's stemming from. And then when you're ready to make the boundary, you're going to make it out of an expression of your worthiness. You're not going to make it out of anger and resentment. And so the idea is that when the inner child behavior shows up, right? Like, oh, are you cooking dinner tonight? And your inner child's like, oh, right? We feel the fear bubbling up. We can soothe it.
Yeah.
Right? And say, actually, no, we're not. Or, you know what? I thought we'd do something fun that's super easy, and we're going to have leftovers, or everybody's going to make their own dinner tonight, or whatever the case may be. But we find ease in it because we know that it's coming from a wound we're trying to heal. Now, here's the thing. The best way with boundaries is to practice, right? So don't go for the kill, the biggest one. So if this is a big boundary and you have and your really big pain point is, I don't know, let's say your mother or your mother-in-law or something like that. Don't force that boundary first. Start small. Start on small things. Start with people who don't maybe have such a hold on you, which is most likely family members. Even if, let's say, you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and they bring you the wrong meal, most of us are like, it's okay, it's fine, I'll eat it, it's okay. No, tell them, in a nice, kind, respectful way, I get it, you're really busy, but this isn't what I ordered. Can I please get the right meal? So start small, because how we allow people to treat us is the message we're sending them.
Absolutely.
Right? So
when you mentioned boundaries, and you also mentioned the aspect that if you as a parent don't know how to set boundaries, or don't know how to invest time in your self-care, invest time in yourself, I've seen this because of the kind of work that I do, right? That the children learn how to neglect themselves as well. They think that if I put too much attention on myself, or if I take out time and invest it just in myself, I will be selfish, I will be self-centered, I will be somebody who people will not like that much. And then what happens is the guilt trip starts then. The child is now guilty because and it's validated because they've not seen their parents do things for themselves. They've seen the mother sacrifice all the time, put everybody else in front of her. They've seen the father do that. And, now they're like, that's the right way to do it because I've seen that and I'm being forced to do that. My inner calling is not that. I don't feel like doing that from inside, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to replicate that behavior because I saw my parents doing it. And even though I don't feel like it resonates with me, I'm still going to go ahead and do it because that's what the societal norms are. That's what everybody else will approve of. So I feel like I just wanted to say that I agree with what you said and I resonate so well with it because I've seen it on and off in the kind of work that I do. A lot of counseling with people who have anxiety. I do a lot of counseling with people who have depression, a lot of relationship issues as well. And it keeps coming up, the inner child issues, the issues where, they've seen their parents having a certain way of doing things and they felt like that's just the way that they had to do it too, right? And it just goes to say that every single thing that we're just speaking about right now is so powerful, and it's something which everybody needs to understand and then learn how to connect to themselves. You mentioned this beautiful thing about the only way to self connect is to be able to unlearn things, sit with yourself, understand your patterns, and then create those healthy boundaries. So thank you for that, Felicia. It was lovely to know about your entire explanation about how someone can keep boundaries. I want to ask you another thing that um, as I mentioned earlier, that because of all the sessions that I do and all the people that I meet, a lot of people are disconnected. They strongly feel disconnected with their true self. They feel like they're doing things to please others. They feel like they're doing things to fit into a certain societal norm, but they don't feel like it's their self. It's not real for them. What message would you want to share with the people who are listening, and if they themselves also feel disconnected? What is it that you would like to share from your experience?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful question because so many of us feel that, right? A lot of times we've got to go through a period of time and we hear that inner voice talking to us, but because of guilt, because of shame, because of the blueprint we've been given, we ignore it, we suppress it, we push it down. But in most of us in this lifetime, it is going to come roaring up at some point. And what I would like to say again is this is our purpose. This is our true calling, is to know ourselves, to reconnect with that inner voice, that spark, that divine wisdom in us, and understand that we are all truly divine, right? We are all part of this beautifully orchestrated universe, not just this world, but on a bigger level. And essentially the outside world, it's the distraction, right? The doing and the accumulating and the achieving and the purchasing and the you name it, it's a distraction, right? So if we can understand that participate in it, right? Participate, it's okay. But truly understand that your calling is not to make so much money and to follow the path and to get married and have 5 cars that's not the path. That's not your purpose.
Yes.
You do it because you do it, and it's fine. We all live in the form world. But when you can open your eyes to what our purpose really is, we then suffer less, right? Because we're not trying to find happiness in all the external worlds. When we start to do the work and begin to uncover and reconnect with that inner wisdom, that's where we find it. So no matter where you live, whether you're homeless or you live in a big house or you're married or you're divorced or you have kids or no kids or whatever the case may be, the inside is the same. You take it with you.
Yes.
The external will change, and it's gonna change. That is inevitable. So if we try to think that we can hold on to everything we have, it can't happen. It's not gonna happen.
Yes.
So just accept that and be okay with that and know this journey is the purpose.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Those were really, really important words. I feel like it's so important to know that for you to find your inner wisdom, for you to connect with that is something as essential as all the other things which we find essential these days. Thank you for, for the lack of a better word, but validating that, right?
Right.
Um, the aspect being, we look at going to the gym, we look at eating healthy food, we look at, drinking a certain amount of water in a day, we have to go and get sunlight for our vitamin D, right? All these essentials. And then we never speak about the aspect of listening to our inner wisdom, following that inner wisdom, and living to the highest self that we were actually supposed to live at. We never talk about that, and we never want to acknowledge that. We just want to think that, oh, it's something that we will eventually reach in our life. But it's not, you don't eventually reach there. You don't do that. You have to create it. You have to be able to, and there are very few people who actually, I call it the spiritual awakening, right? And there are very few people who actually want to do that in the right way and actually get the kind of spiritual awakening that they want, is because they sat down and they actually made it work for themselves. Because it's not something that happens in your journey. It's not something where you'll wake up one day and, you'll be like, okay, now is the time when you're going to be hit with your spiritual journey.
That's right. That's right. It's less than 1% of
Yes.
the world that and here's the thing. It's not because people don't know about it. There's so many people that say, here's how to do it. But here it's hard and people don't want to do it, right? They know they have to disrupt their life.
Yes.
When they know they're going to upset their loved ones, when they know they're going to unearth things, they don't want to do it. And that's the funny thing, right? Like, that is the really interesting kicker. And until they're ready to do it, they're not going to do it. Yes. And that's okay. Everybody is on their own continuum. So I believe that the more we can bring this into our daily practice, so whether it's listening to podcasts like yours and, reading material, reading wisdom literature, and bringing it into our daily practice, right? Just like we're drinking water every day, we're feeding our soul every day. These practices, meditation, moving our body, breath work, journaling, these are the things that will continue to move us closer down the path. And it will begin to break things open. And at the like a light switch where you turn on or something happens and it's an aha moment. No, it's not an aha. It is a constant practice, like going to the gym, something you do ritualistically every day.
Yes, I call it the in a very metaphoric, very metaphoric to the nutrition profession, but I call it the I want to eat cake syndrome. Yeah. Where, you wake up every day and you're like, I want to eat cake. I want to eat cake. I want to eat cake. And, all the ingredients are in your pantry. Every single ingredient which is needed to make that cake is in your pantry. And you're like, I want to eat cake. But the idea is that you have to take those ingredients, you have to bake it yourself and enjoy it, You could also save some for later and enjoy it repeatedly every single day.
Right.
So, I always talk about this, and I always refer to it as the I want to eat cake syndrome, because it just makes so much sense. When you're handed everything, you've been told this is where you could get this help, this is where you could do this is what you could do, right? And if people connect, when somebody wants to really do the work, if they want to connect with coaches like you, who do all this great transformational work, people like me who also sit and do all this work from an internal and exterior, it's something. It's not just about food, it's more about your mindset, it's about your behavior, it's every single thing, right? So if there are people like us who are here to kind of help people and tell them that this is what the journey is, and then they come to know and they're like, what, are you serious? This is what we have to do? And I don't think I can do this right now.
Yeah. All the time, right? They're willing to sit with all the ingredients in their pantry and just keep complaining. It's this better to just complain and have all the ingredients and sit. And that's what happens. And it's the few that are really cracking and they say, I want to do it differently. Not just, and we talk about wanting to change the world. The way we change the world is change ourselves. Yes. Is to grow ourselves. Because the minute you do that, you give one other person in your life permission to do the same.
Absolutely.
And that's the ripple effect, right? You don't need to go out and externally change the external world. You change this here and it changes.
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you for those beautiful words of wisdom, Felicia. On
Thank
this note,
you.
I want to, you mentioned that you have this lovely giveaway, which you're going to be giving everybody as a freebie, all the listeners. So I just want you to elaborate a little bit about, what is it that you're going to be giving away as a freebie to everyone?
Absolutely. So they are three worksheets. Because here's the thing, right? We went through the deep information as far as the awareness side, which is the start, right? We have to have awareness, but the how-to, of course, becomes a little bit harder, and starting to bring in practices. So these are three worksheets that listeners can download. One of them is going to be about recognizing your presence and being able to see your patterns. So everything is pretty self-explanatory on the worksheets, but it will allow you to start to understand and begin to dismantle some of your daily patterns on how you're showing up in your life. Another one is about the mirror exercise, which is about being able to see each other, right? Because we all have this is a good person, this is a bad person, right? I like this person, I don't like this person. But with those polarizations and that mindset is also what keeps us limited. We need to understand that everything we see in the good person is part of us, and everything we see in the bad person is part of us. And the reason we connect with that is because it's part of our essence. So it's a really beautiful worksheet to be able to lay it out in a different perspective for us. And then the third one is a mask exercise, which is something that I really love, but it has two masks on there, and it allows people to write in. The first mask is what they show the world. So what do they put out in the world? And they can write words, symbols, anything of who they are, right? What is it that they show about themselves and they put out there? And then the second mask, and again, nobody sees these worksheets. So the idea is people can be honest with themselves if they would like to be. The second mask is, what are the things that we are keeping from the world? What are the things that we are not showing, right? And sometimes not even showing ourselves. And, I heard something interesting on another podcast, and it's so simple, but, it was someone that was saying, I don't feel seen, and I don't feel like my family understands me. They don't understand me. They don't know me. And it was like, you're right. Okay, they don't know you, but are you showing them who you are? Because here's the thing, there are people in your life who know you and who see you, but that's because you show them all of your sides, right? Even the stuff that we don't love about ourselves, but we show that to them. Until we're able to show our true selves. And again, you don't show your true self to everybody, but with selection, with the people you trust, then we can build deep connection and acceptance for ourselves, all facets of ourselves. So these are the three worksheets. It will at least give people a start to really begin to understand this stuff in context. And then I urge you again, using things like breath work and meditation, even if you sit for 5 minutes in silence. There is no fantastic, amazing way to do this. It's as simple as just sitting, right? And getting present and following your breath, journaling, really just bringing in small, attainable things to start to create the change and transformation in our lives.
Wow. Thank you, Felicia. That is awesome. I'm actually really excited to have a look at all those tools myself. And I feel like everyone who's listening should definitely download that and, use it to be able to kind of understand themselves. Or at least, as you mentioned, start the journey. And, if they were interested in kind of like doing more work, they could get in touch with you as well. And, ask you for whatever services that you offer and probably get more information and, understand how they could work with you as well. So thank you so much for this lovely conversation. All the wisdom, all the kind words that you have shared with us today. I personally resonated with each one of those, instances that you spoke about, all the little messages that you had, right? I personally resonated with it. And I feel like everyone who's listening should really pay attention to what their true self is like. And the more they open up to being what they truly are, that divine connection becomes stronger and stronger and stronger with each passing year. So thank you, Felicia, once more.
Thank you. It was an honor and such a pleasure.
It was lovely to have you in this episode.
Same.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.